Favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Are there any other items that members would like to add into business this evening? Okay, hearing none. Public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 p.m. The first item of business this evening is Jason Brennan, Hillcrest 3A Corner Update. Jay, if you come forward, please.
Okay,
Welcome.
thank you. There we go, worked. Jason Brennan, 23 Aldrich Street. And I'm here to talk about a potential beautification project at the corner of 3A and Hillcrest. So what we were looking to do, we were looking to clean up this intersection and make it a little bit visually appealing. And so we went back and forth between a group of ours and got some input. And so what we're thinking is turning something that looks like this into something maybe that looks a little bit like this, where we've got this is a Photoshop job, so it's not the best rendering in the world. So it's potentially has like that white vinyl fence that we've got in the north end of town. We would replace the post that's there right now and actually set it back a little bit with either like a 6x6 post that's got vinyl covering on it, or we were also looking for a piece of like historic granite, like an old granite post we thought would look pretty cool, but they're kind of hard to find. And then we would replace the sign that's currently there right now to something that maybe just a little wayfinding sign. Like I put something up there, but it might not end up actually saying that. That's just for picture purposes. To give you an idea of what we're talking about, like an overhead shot, we would be talking about essentially 15 to 17 sections of fence. Each of the green dots are a post that would be installed. The black dot that you see there in the middle is the existing sign, and that would maybe be pulled back a little bit. And it would run essentially from the existing pole on 3A, maybe a little bit north of that, kind of around the corner and maybe up around the corner about 20, 30 feet. In looking at it and going out there the other day, we would probably be looking to put it about 10 to 12 feet off the edge of the road, just so that there's no, it doesn't get run over by snow plows. And in between, I believe in between the fence and the road, there are those stakes with the reflectors on them that are already there. So we would be inside of that. The planter that they have there right now with the nice, beautiful flowers that I think McQuestion's put in there, that would also be kind of moved back, and we'd keep that planter there and would go around the new post. Give you an idea.
Could you put the post in the middle of the planter?
Yeah. That's where I think it is now. I think the planter goes around the post. Same thing. Mm-hmm. If you take a look at it, according to the tax map, that area right there is within the New Hampshire DOT right-of-way. So it's not on anybody's private property. It's not town land. It's DOT right-of-way. If you remember, 10, 15 years ago, that used to be a Y intersection instead of a T intersection. And so we need to, if we want to move forward with this, we need to get approval from the DOT to allow us to do this stuff. It would probably take a couple of weekends to do this. It would all be done by volunteers. We'd probably just have to find somebody with a backhoe to help us pull the sign out and move the sign. And 100% of this would be paid for by the money that we raised as part of that calendar thing that we did. So there'd be no cost to the town at all. The only other alternatives that we were thinking that are more expensive would be, as I mentioned, instead of having this as like a white vinyl post, having that as a granite post. And the other thing that we were thinking of that is also more expensive, instead of having that regular split rail fence, instead of those posts being like the vinyl post, them being kind of like the granite hitching posts going around the corner. But those are really, really nice, but they're really expensive. I did talk to DOT like a year ago when we were first thinking about this. And I think DOT actually had a bit of an issue with that because if someone hits the vinyl fence, they're just going to go right through it. But if someone hit a granite post, it would cause more damage. So they would have had to look at that.
They're $180 a piece, the granite posts.
The granite posts are? Yeah. And there's 15 of them. So
Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah, that's a lot. Where this is about $70 a section, $80 a section going all the way through.
That's nice.
And that's
ties in
that.
nicely
So-
with the north end.
It does. It would match the north end. And later on down the line, we would be, one thing that got cooking at some
I
point
like that.
is to do some sort of like wayfinding sign at Albuquerque and 3A that kind of said town hall this way, fire station this
Nice.
way. That would be next.
Yeah.
And you connected me up with that sign guy in town.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to draft something up.
Oh, that is that would look very, very nice.
Yeah. So that's the next thing.
Nice.
Or maybe this is first. Who knows? Yeah. And that would be paid for out of the calendar money too. No cost to the town.
Wow.
Great.
And that would be easy to install. We could probably install that in a couple hours. And that's that. So
Yeah, so I discussed this plan with the police chief because we talked about this a couple meetings ago, and Selectman Lynch had raised concerns that the police department, it may interfere with the police department's operations. Chief O'Brien has seen this plan. He's has no objections to it, so it won't interfere with any of their speed enforcement operations. I'm just trying to reach out to DOT. Jason and I have been trying to reach out to DOT just to try to get a point person to work with. And I guess they're probably just extremely busy this time of the year, but we'll continue to try to make contact with them this week so we can get this going.
And if we had to, we could remove a post or two and you could get back there if you wanted to get back there to lay stuff down or do whatever you need to do. It is an infamous cutoff. People like to cut the corner off. I talked to my son about that. I said, hey, anybody cut that corner? And they, oh, yeah. We've done it a few times.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
How tall of a piece of granite would you need for the town sign?
It would have, that existing sign is pretty tall. It is out of the ground, maybe about 10 feet. I don't think we would need it that high, but I was looking for a
Could be like 14
historic
feet long.
12 foot piece of granite that came like 8 foot out of the ground.
So 8 up, 4 in.
And I was looking for like the sill, from an old barn or something like that with kind of like the mile post would be kind of cool. And they're heavy too. That would weigh
Yeah, that
a
would weigh
ton,
about
like-
900
Yeah.
pounds, a 12-foot, 14-foot piece of granite, 7x7. Yeah.
that's
The
7 by
only-
the one I was looking at are like a foot, 18 inches
geez.
by like a foot thick.
You could drive.
It's like-
you could drive into it, and it would probably crack your car up
Yeah.
before you break it.
The only thing that it's not a concern at all. It's just that if we can make sure that the sign is visible, because there's a lot of lettering in there, and hopefully that it's visible with people driving 40 miles an hour.
Yep.
Or aren't there, there's a sign based off of speed limits, right? You have to be a
Yeah,
certain
I
size.
believe so. I think
Yeah.
that the lettering is,
Well, that's why
size is
river
based
access
at-
is so
yeah.
much bigger than the rest of the
Yep.
recreational signs.
The sign that you have at the end of Albuquerque and 3A, would that work there too? If we elevated it more?
It could. So
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we kind of oohed and ahhed over that
I
sign.
know that
Would that also be like, just to keep it consistent, would it be nice to have that there and something of the same design?
I do like that.
That is.
I think that's visible.
Yep.
And that tells you exactly what you're looking for.
It could. And what we could do is because the sign isn't really on the critical path, we get time to think about it. If we get the approval from the DOT, we put the fence in, leave the current sign there now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Think about it and then go forward from there.
Because if we made that taller so it sat over the fence, I think that would be very attractive.
This is, I got this from a sign company up north somewhere. And I think that is, I want to say it's 3 feet wide by 4 feet tall. So almost like a sheet of plywood on its side, essentially. Or maybe it's at 6 feet tall, I think. I know the where it says Campbell High School, I think that's 3 feet, just to give you a
Yeah.
order of magnitude.
That's a nice thing.
Yep.
So do we have to approve anything, or is this, is it your intent to have us?
No, I think
Just-
as long as the board doesn't have any objections, the last time I introduced this, the one down at 3A in Hillcrest, there were some questions and concerns. And so I just,
You took care of those.
reached out to Jason and we talked to the police chief and,
As long as the DOT is good, I think it's wonderful.
I would be
I-
good with either sign.
and of course this
Yeah.
one won't.
Either way.
I think it's great. And Jason, again, personally, thank you for all of your.
Well, if you guys
efforts.
want to come out and dig a hole,
I'll be
we've
there.
dug a hole before.
Uh-huh. Baseball's over.
I'm afraid I might fall in it at
Yeah.
my size,
That's why we gotta do it together.
and then you'll miss me.
Yeah,
Power auger.
yeah, that's what we did. We had,
Yeah.
up in the north end of town,
You had the
Continental gave us an auger
Mhm.
on a skid steer, and it made easy work of the first half of it, which was awesome.
Then it was sandy, the second part of it. It was nice.
Yep.
It was easy digging.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
your
Good work,
efforts.
man. Good work.
Yep.
Give props on the shoes too.
I do a public input.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Turn my hat around.
Oh,
All right, we'll get the 6:45 quick for you. Next item of business is Recreation Commission appointments. We have Peter Ames, regular member, term expiring March 31st of 2020. George Stephen Gannon, regular member, term to expire 3/31/2020. Chris Burns, alternate member, term to expire 3/31/2022. Andrew Ruggles, alternate member, term to expire 3/31/2022. Mr. Brown?
Okay, just bringing these to your attention. The Rec Commission has met with all of these individuals. Some were acting alternate members. Some have been actively involved in assisting the Rec Commission and have expressed interest in serving on the commission. So they all come recommended and just really require your action this evening.
I know the majority of them. I think they're great candidates for the amount of work they put in and all the things they've already done for the rec, so.
and Rec Commission is happy with this.
This has come from the chairman, yes.
And this will actually make it a full board now, right?
They're going to have full membership for.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Mr. Chairman, could I move to accept all 4 members?
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
Second.
second by Mr. Larry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item is the Heritage Commission Bylaws Review. Mr. Brown?
All right, this is something that the Heritage Commission has been working on for the past 3 months. They have provided a copy to me. I've provided review, some input. It went on to legal counsel. Legal counsel had some changes that were made, and the Heritage Commission recently adopted them. They wanted, although it's not required, they asked that the Board of Selectmen review them just as a formality of recognizing that they're on, that these are going to be the rules and procedures that they're going to follow as they deal with their monthly meetings and any cases that require, review by the Heritage Commission for his, buildings that are slated for demolition have to go through that process.
Is our representative, Brent, you have anything?
I just want to compliment Dr. Queenan for the work that she's done on the bylaws. She put a tremendous amount of effort in, and we had active discussion on the bylaws, and also incorporated all of our legal counsel's recommendations in the bylaws, and we all thought it was appropriate for the board just to be comfortable with them and as the commission moves forward.
Okay, great. So there's no motion we have to take, just more of information.
I don't believe the board has to approve, no.
Have we seen the bylaws?
Yeah,
Yep, they're in,
if you go to your little tree, you can,
They're in a little tree.
They're attached down below there.
you got to get them on the site.
You gotta get me on the site. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you went there.
The tree died.
Wait a second. There. And where's your
Good that you're painting our landscaper then.
right here, sites.
Sorry, all you folks at home. I'm computer illiterate.
Tested me on it. And then you
Just
go,
computer?
see that little thing?
Yep.
Click on that. That's what he says, tree. Funny. You go to heritage. Middle pane. Yeah.
Thank you,
Now
Troy.
You'll have to close that out.
Okay.
They get
To go back, okay. So we have to review these? Is that what we'll do here?
Yeah, I mean, we can review them, and again, it takes no action
Takes no action yet. So
on
if
the
you want,
board.
Or
You can have an open.
we could review them and
the
just
next
discuss
meeting,
them next
That's what I
meeting.
mean.
Yeah.
So
You know, take some
Okay.
time at your leisure.
Like we do
keep
with
it
all
on
the
the
policies
agenda
and
just in
procedures,
case
yeah.
there's something
If you have
in
any
there. that-
questions or anything, you know, give me a call and stuff.
Because that's some of the policies we're going to talk about tonight are just introduction. You'll be taking action on them at the next meeting. So
Perfect.
we can bring these bylaws back at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, being that it's 6:48, I'll open up to public input.
Close that out.
Click on it, yeah.
Okay, so like the next.
Jason Brennan, 23 Aldrich Street again, killing two birds with one stone.
Perfect. Efficient.
I wanted to talk for a second about something near and dear to my heart, and that is lawn maintenance. Not my own lawn, but some of the town properties. So I went down to Moores Falls, which is the conservation area in the north part of town, a couple of weeks ago, and I was going to go for a little hike down to the river. I walked in there past the gate, and the grass is up to my knees. I walked down this tick grass, this total tick grass. I walked down about another 50 yards down to where the trail is, and the grass is up to my waist. So I went home, got the mower, mowed that thing down. If you look in front of the old town hall where that picnic table is, it's not maintained. The last person I saw maintain that piece was actually Selectman Lynch, I think, had been cutting it for a little while. The piece next to that used to be a nice field in front of the library, all overgrown now. The Griffin Fields where they play soccer, all overgrown. The river access, we do that every couple of weeks, but if that weren't done, that would be overgrown. In front of the tennis courts, so that used to be mowed every once in a while, all overgrown. So the reason why I'm here is I'm thinking, okay, so budget season's coming up. You're going to be talking to the different departments. Maybe you should take a look at these things to figure out how these conservation properties, really, most of them are conservation properties, can be maintained going forward. I know that conservation really doesn't have any budget, so to speak, to mow lawns and stuff like that. But maybe there's something else that can be done. Like, for example, sure, you could hire somebody out to mow these things. It took me an hour to mow each one of those pieces of property. Maybe you can hire somebody out to do it. That's going to be, expensive. Maybe you hire a kid for an additional kid at the highway department for $12 an hour during the summer, get together with recreation, with highway, with conservation, figure out all the pieces of property that really be maintained and knock it out that way. Or another thing that we could do is I think that we have enough volunteers in town that would be willing to help out with taking care of some of this property. Doesn't happen, we mow the river every 3 weeks or so. So it's not like a full-time job. An hour every 3 weeks isn't that much. And maybe if we form some sort of volunteer committee that maybe fell underneath the Conservation Commission or rec, maybe we could be able to use some of the town equipment. I mean, I'm not talking about stuff at the highway garage, but there is a brush mower that conservation has. Maybe folks could use that brush mower, maybe use some of the weed whackers that they have.
Yeah, because they did buy that. If I remember correctly, they did buy that for that reason up at Moores Falls and stuff.
Yeah. And it just it's been sitting there for years. I don't even think Troy realized we even had one
So Matt pulled it out of the shed.
pulled it out of the shed.
So we have 2 new mowers and we have 1 summer employee at the time in there.
Yeah, so
Was mowing.
it's a good point because I've noticed it as well that there are different areas in town that get no attention or a little bit of attention here and there. So now I have a resident who has sent me an email a couple times about the welcome to Litchfield signs. Now, one area in the north end, there's no grass or anything in that area, but down the south end, they've planted flowers and there's grass growing everywhere. So I was talking to Kevin Brown about working on getting a full punch list of items so we understand what we have. It's my understanding that we've not done a lot of the conservation area probably in the past. Probably most likely 3 years ago when the highway department was renting that roadside mower, they probably did some conservation property then, once or twice a year. But now we have some additional equipment. And I think, let me talk to the road agent and see what we can do to address some of this stuff. Because I think it's great to have volunteers going out and doing the river access, maybe going out more. But, we've talked about, some of the reasons why we think we need to have a department that's going to oversee the buildings and grounds and roads and facilities. And I think this ties into that
It was
conversation.
back into creating a Department of Public Works. How do we get
Not going that far. I'm just trying to
No,
get a
No,
couple
no, no.
trails mowed a few times a
If you
year.
look at the MRI
but
report,
and
that's
one
what
way
it
of
was.
doing that is, I think your timing is perfect. Is that bringing on another, making sure we have two high school or summer help college high school kids work in the summer, and we have the equipment. We can stay on top of this stuff.
Yep. And maybe you look at it holistically, because I know the rec commission pays someone to mow some of their properties. Maybe some of that could be offloaded onto, if it's the highway department, and maybe you end up saving money. Who knows? Because I don't
We
know.
spend $50,000 a year at the recreation department to mow everything. And I got to agree, there is a certain amount of savings, I believe, that could happen there. So, yeah.
I'm a big fan of shared services.
Especially if we're already doing it in other places, might as well keep doing it.
And I think the conservation lands are just one of those things where it kind of just falls through the cracks because they really don't have a department, so to speak. And that's it. Something to think about.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
again.
Appreciate it. The next item is highway laborer position, part-time to full-time. Mr. Brown. Thanks, Jay. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, I didn't. There's nothing written up on this. As you know, we have the department right now is staffed before the resignation of the road agent. Was staffed with 2 full-time employees: the road agent, mechanic, equipment operator. Then we had the part-time, the 30-hour part-time labor position. With the resignation, retirement of the road agent, we've taken Kevin Brown, moved him up.
2019.
Sorry.
Wrong
Wrong button.
I would like to wish everyone a happy new year. Thank you for being here.
There you go.
Just close it. Feel like Kevin.
So, we've taken the mechanic, we've put him up as road agent until March 31st. And that change basically was a wash in the budget. Remember, the one position that we had, we funded within the budget. We didn't go and ask for additional funding. So we're only talking about taking the part-time labor position, which is 30 hours, and bumping that up. I'm sorry, the 32 hours, and bumping that up another 8 hours a week.
Okay.
And we're already 6 months into our budget. That would bring us back up to 2 full-time positions, which we originally had as of January 1st. Obviously, the position, the skill set, certifications, a little different, compensations different as well. So the change is basically, it really is a wash. I ran some numbers today, give or take, depending on how open, what benefits are elected. It really isn't going to really change much in the budget. And it's a good opportunity for for Josh, who holds the position right now as a part-timer, he's expressed interest in pursuing his CDL license. He has his the permit right now, and I know that Kevin is working with him, doing some training, and the goal being that that he obtains that. But it wouldn't be a condition of the job because we're just making it a full-time laborer position. If he gets the CDL license, we'll have a conversation about possibly making a truck driver position. But right now, all it's on the table is just to take the laborer position from 32 hours, bring it up to 40 hours, get the department staffed again with 2 full-time positions.
So the real impact's 8 hours.
8 hours a week. Yeah.
And isn't this what the
Like
voters asked for anyway?
$16 something an hour.
Yeah.
It's what we had.
The voters had wanted this anyway. They wanted us to add.
It was Warrant Article 10, I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the board was an advisory. The vote was advisory, indicating that the people who came out to vote that day were definitely supportive of adding more staff. We're not adding more staff. We're just trying to maintain 2 full-time positions.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Is there any action that needs to be taken, or?
I need a
Yeah.
vote to authorize.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to authorize the town administrator.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
Second.
second by Mr. Schaefer. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. The next item on the agenda is cash receipt policy review. Mr. Brown.
All right, again, so the next 3 policy reviews, like we've done in the past, just going to introduce them. You guys take them back with you, read through them, and then at our next meeting, if you have any questions between now and our meeting, send me emails and I'll get a response out to you. And just a quick summary, the cash receipts policy is the policy of the town. This is a lot of input, I believe, over the years from our auditing staff on how the various departments that collect payments receive those payments and how they're submitted to the town and documented and reconciled with the treasurer, finance director, and eventually, making their way to a deposit. So, for example, this policy is very specific in stating that down at the recycling center, they are not to accept cash. They only take check, which is different here. If you come to register your cars, pay your taxes, you have the cash, you can pay in cash. And that's why I say if you have it. So it lays out the process and responsibilities, all departments handling the collection of cash and payments.
There were no changes from the previous, right?
No, it's just that it requires, I believe this policy is be reviewed at least once every 2 years.
Yep.
We'll fix it.
Okay, we'll review it and take action during the next meeting. Next item is the fraud policy review. Mr. Brown?
Okay, and this policy is written specifically to make sure that we have procedures in place to help prevent the mismanagement of cash in the terms of embezzlement, the misuse of inventory in our assets. People aren't allowed to take these things home and use them over the weekend. Stealing assets from the town, and any forms of corruption, which could be in the form of just simply conflicts of interest or actually bribery, where you're telling someone, hey, if you pave my driveway, something, I'll give you the paving contract for the next 3 years, stuff like that. So written policy that's reviewed by this board. Also, it's a very important policy. So if you'll see in here, something I just noticed reviewing it, that it's something that's to be shared with the employees, I think, every other year. So
Okay.
not something that we just give them when they're hired and then they forgot about it, 10 years later. They
And this hasn't
totally
changed
forgot about it.
either. Right?
No
There's been
change,
okay.
no, just a review process. So that's an interesting policy. You have time to take a chance to read through it.
And that came about just a little bit
Well,
of
I think
history
you
with
had an
the
incident, right?
unfortunate situation we had years ago. where the treasurer conducted himself in a manner sportsmanlike.
Violation of policy.
Unbefitting.
Right. So,
All right, the next item would be the background check policy review.
So this is a policy that's used when we hire employees. So this is we'll follow this policy, understanding with different types, depending on the position you hold in town. If you handle cash or not, we'll dictate whether we do a credit check, obviously a criminal background check, a driver's license check, and it actually gets very specific. It even talks about the volunteers that work for the town, the rec department. And it actually singles out a lot of the town positions, the volunteer positions, and some of the elected positions for requirements that we do on upon hiring, or if you're just recently elected. And then again, follow up to make sure that we stay aware of any change in your background, whether it be credit or criminal or driver's record. And one of the things I noticed in reviewing this policy, and I know Chairman Weber has mentioned at a couple meetings about having a policy in place where we do check our employees' driver's records.
Mhm.
So there was this table in here talks about the highway department has vehicle operators and the box is checked off for the motor vehicle license. But it really is just an indication that it's just upon being hired.
Because the majority
So
of the
I'll take a
departments,
look
it's
at
like
that.
2 to 3 years
Yeah.
that there's the cadence of when they do it.
Right.
And I know in the private sector, it's every 2 to 3 years that they,
Yeah. So when I
Including if
bring
you
it
have a company
back to you,
vehicle.
I think it's wise to probably put it at 2 years. I mean, we're going to have a very small staff, and
Mhm.
we should always make sure that every other year we're checking to make sure that their driver's license is still valid and hasn't been suspended or anything.
and there's been no change in this one either, right?
No, so I caught that today, and when I bring it back to you, I'll probably most likely be putting in 2 years, as like we do for almost all the other positions. It ranges from 2 to 3 years.
depending on. Okay, great. The next item is the Board of Selectmen goals and action items. Mr. Brown.
Let me refresh it here. All right, again, we haven't had this on the agenda for a couple meetings, so I just wanted to bring it back. One of the things that you'll see in progress right now, we're really kind of wrapping it up over this week and next week is the employee performance reviews. We've signed the union contract. That should be struck out. It's time for me to come in at our next meeting and actually do a financial update. We're at that 6-month point, and I think it's a really good time. I have a good sense of where we're at in our budget. And so I'll be giving you an update, working with Karen and all the department heads. On the review policies and procedures, you see we've we got some more on the table we just talked about tonight, but we've made it through quite a few. One of the other items under reviewing contracts and agreements, at the start, we were reviewing the employment agreements. Our next meeting, I'll start putting in some of these contracts we have with private vendors, for example, Avatar Assessing. So it's good timing. Look at that contract, talk about it. The auditors, I think their contract, it may be one more year on it, so it may have a budget impact. I don't know. I got to bring that back. Mosquito contract, those things, because they're all budget items. So it's a good time for us to take a look at those contracts and have a discussion about it. The library trustees, I've been trying to coordinate a meeting with them, and due to both boards having different conflicts, I just wanted to remind you that one of the things that this board wanted to do was meet with the trustees and talk to them about the MOU, the memorandum of understanding regarding the covering of health and dental benefits. If for example, one of their employees' status changes midstream in their budget, we have an agreement that says that we'll take on that cost. And let's see here. We've done the purchase. I got some updating to do here to cross some things out, but under buildings and facilities, still working on the Talon Hall HVAC system quote. Some things here about, we purchased the Hillcrest property. Flagpoles, there was a discussion about flagpoles at our cemeteries. I haven't done really anything with that. I am working with Kevin Brown on the road improvement plan. It's overdue. It's not NRPC's fault, but we've made a lot of progress. Jack was working on it with me, and then now we're transitioning to Kevin. And that transition, you know, some roads are a little different approach. So we're just, we got to wrap it up, but the timing will be perfect. And I think you'd be very pleased with the product where it really does lay out a solid 5-year plan, but really goes further than that. But it's really difficult to go out much further than 5 years on managing your road's surface. Capital improvement plan, I had a discussion with our department heads at the last meeting, and we all agreed that we would try to get all of our requests in by September 1st. So the plan being that sometime in the fall, we'll have a draft plan available for the board to review. And the rest of the stuff, a couple items down, fire department, the building and grounds and maintenance of the new station, you know, the lawn care, we've, with the new equipment, we've made some progress there. We've taken the trash barrels that we had along the outside of the town hall. We've eliminated those. We have a dumpster that's moved in at the fire station. So all the trash from both facilities are going into that dumpster. There is a fee, and you'll see that there's going to be a new cost in the budget that will show up. But it's a better system. You know, we don't have our employees reaching down into those big containers trying to pull the stuff out, get it into the dump truck. So I think that was a good change. And I talked to the fire chief today, and I talked to road agent about the reuse of the fire truck, the utility truck. They're going to get a new replacement. And Kevin really wants his hands on that truck, and he's going to do some work to it to make sure he can use it. He's thinking about trying to see if we can actually park it right here and have it kind of dedicated to the fire station parking lot. So we'll see.
Because that was used last year to clean intersections a couple times, right? That truck?
That truck was used when the first start of the season when we were a little short drivers, and they used that truck. The truck's old.
The only issue was what?
Plows
Leaks
and-
oil or something?
Well, the oil pan leaks, and so I'm told, you know, the only way that we can repair that is you have to actually lift the engine up a bit to get the oil pan replaced. Kevin's got a few thoughts on how he thinks he can get around that, so we'll see.
Okay.
But the big thing is to age, and the plow frame itself has been welded and patched. It's not in good shape. So they'll be working on that.
If you get a couple seasons to take care of the fire station.
Exactly. Just to buy us some time. And always, anytime you have a 4-wheel drive vehicle with a plow on it, it's just, you know, good backup truck we can have. So. So, you know, you have access to that. Take a look at it. If you see something on there we've been talking about and I've not added it, let me know. We'll add it to the list so it's not forgotten about.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next item is the administrator report. Mr. Brown.
Just two things. One, I'll jump to the audit first. The audit, I provided you all with a copy of the audit tonight. The auditors will be in at our next meeting. So, and they'll go through this audit with you. So they do a real good job. You know, if you like me and you open up the audit, you know, some of those things you can interpret, some takes some assistance from the auditors. but they'll walk us through it and they'll answer any questions you have. Everything that I've been told we had was just another fantastic financial year for the town. And it appears, from what I could tell, that our fund balance, unassigned fund balance, grew as I had been predicting, and even with the heavy use that we had, making some purchases. So I was very pleased with the report. No management letter, no findings, everything really clean. And, Karen White, the finance manager, HR director, she just does a fantastic job, stays on top of things. I know that sometimes people get a little frustrated because she's going to stick to the rules and procedures, but that's what gives you a squeaky clean audit.
Yes.
So also department heads are commended as well. So good news there. One of the things I wanted to bring to your attention, I think the board may have received an email. I know I received it. I'm not sure if you were copied or not, but Bill Hayes, a resident, also a member of the budget committee, he sent an email to the board. And he's just expressed concern over the fact that we have a lot of public meetings and we don't have police protection at our meetings. And I think he just, he sent that out there for the board to consider it. And so I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware. We received that correspondence. We've had discussion about it and how we want to proceed forward with addressing that. I don't know if it was at a request. It was just.
I was part of the email. Yeah. It was a
You were.
concern on his part. I mean, if you could talk with Chief O'Brien, get his input on it. And also what's the financial impact?
Okay.
Any other comments, guys?
That's worth looking into maybe.
See what
Yeah.
the impact would be.
There is one other thing. I didn't have it listed here in my report, but I was talking to the chief today about, and it's going to be coming before the planning board. And I think they need a variance first. So it's going to go to the ZBA, then planning board. Down on the golf course, and I believe it's at the intersection of 3A and Hillcrest, where we were talking about this evening, there's a switching station or some type of transformer, and there's going to be a significant upgrade in that area of the town. And they're looking to try to do that this year. So they're going to be required to go to our zoning board of adjustment, and the planning board is going to be listening to their proposal. The chief informed me today that he had interaction with Eversource, and this is what really grabbed my attention, that he's looking at, when he's being told, that they would have the police detail there for 2 months.
Wow.
Two cruisers or 2 police officers in about 2 months to do this work. So I will, I wanted you to be aware, because this seems like it's going to be a significant project, and it's going to attract a lot of attention from our residents.
Yeah, I can't picture where the switching center is down there.
I don't know what, the term is, but they were looking to build, so when I understand, they're trying to build some type of structure on the ground. That didn't work out well with the operations of the golf course, and now it sounds like it's going to be supported more up in the air.
Is it at the end of the trolley car where they reinforced that to, right at Hillcrest where the old trolley tracks
Yeah.
cross?
Mhm.
If you look across,
south,
yeah.
They've been working down in
Yeah,
there
south,
at the end,
just
and
a
I'm
little
thinking
south.
that may be
Yeah.
because they've been beefing up that right of way and also working down it. So that may be the area that we're looking at.
I mean, I can have, I know Eversource, they'd be more than willing to come in and talk to the board. If you wanted me, I could arrange that, or if I can just get you the information. It's going to go through the planning board. So
I was going to say there wasn't more appropriate.
if the
plan.
planning board's the one's going to handle
Just
the
more information.
abutter
Just
comments
curious if
and
they're gonna
public
put a
comments.
substation or what they're going to do.
But I
down
wanted
there.
to make sure you're aware of it. I'll try to get you the information, because I had no idea that it's going to be, it seems like it's going to be quite a large event for to have our police officers there for 2 months.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I don't know aesthetics wise, if, it was going to be on the ground, now it's going to be suspended in the air. I don't know what it looks like. So
Yeah,
it's gonna
really.
be-
Yeah.
Okay, selectmen reports. Mr. Schaefer.
Basketball courts got painted, the outside basketball courts at Dara. Other than that, that's all we have for the rec.
Dedication.
Oh, yeah, we have the, what date is that?
July 20th?
Yeah, July 20th.
I think at 11 a.m.
We have the river access dedication, and Jason obviously headed that up, and the rec commission's part of it. So yeah.
Okay, great. I have no update from the Conservation Committee because our meeting would have been July 4th, so it was canceled. Mr. Lemire?
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Lynch? Sorry,
Ooh,
Mr. Larry?
oh.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Can't come back from that one, can you?
Things in my life. Wow, that hurt.
You're too tall.
We had budget committee meeting last week. It was the municipal association's presentation. It was very nice. And then we had the school, new school contract for the teachers. They presented it to us. And we're going to have an emergency meeting on the 5th of August, I believe, to discuss that. But other than that, that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Was there any discussion about, will the school be handling that election? Will that be a selectman?
Yeah, where does that cost of the election
I
go?
remember hearing about it right before the 4th of July break. And
That's a bone of contention because I think the town has to foot the bill for that if it gets approved by a judge.
oh, that's right.
But
Yeah, it has to go to Superior
But
Court
still, I mean,
first.
that's got to be
Yeah,
what?
it's got to be proven
$10,000?
that it's an emergency situation, which
Right.
I don't know that it is.
I'm doubtful.
But I believe the town clerk has to
I think
run.
so they have a
and
town
we have
clerk,
to-
and I don't think that town
Right.
clerk does.
What does an election usually
We
cost
do the
us?
ballots, we have the
$10,000?
ballot
I mean, is it-
machines.
Yeah, it's like a regular.
Ballots, get the
It's like
machines, you
a
got
regular
janitorial.
election.
Yeah, you got custodial help
Yeah.
that has to set up and take down. We've got
It's a lot
the
of
checkers, the keepers of the list, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of
It's a long
Labor.
But it's got to get approved by the court first.
Court first.
We may be.
Like, if you could just find out where that
But that, I
financial burden of the election would
I
go,
have a
that'd be
feeling
great to
I'll
know
ask
from
Terry,
a
but I-
budget standpoint.
I can ask that at the next meeting too.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bob. Since we had no items removed from consent, we had no other business, our next regular meeting will be July 22nd, 2019. We do actually have two non-public sessions this evening. We will only be coming out of non-public to close the meeting. Our two non-publics this evening under RSA 91A:32I, consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally, to one or more members of the public body, even where legal counsel is not present. And the second item is RSA 91A:32A, the compensation of an employee. Could I have a motion for non-public session, please?
So moved.
We have a
As,
motion.
as listed by the chair.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
Second.
second by Mr. Larry. Roll call?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Lemire, yes.
Aye.
Oh, yeah. Raise your hands.
We are now in non-public. Thank you for tuning in and have a good evening.